introduction to Energize Black. Yeah, thank you, Valerie. So we're going to start off with an introduction to Energize Black. And the goal is for anyone on the call who is not aware to get a sense of what Energize Black is. It's a community for young Black people, and we hope to have as many members in as possible. So we're just going to kick off with what is Energize Black, who are we, and why do we want you to join us and be a part of us. So Energize Black is officially 2 years. I would say we launched in 2024, and the goal is to support Black talents across the UK energy sector to start, grow, and thrive. It's the first and the largest. I'm sure you've probably asked around, is there any community doing something specifically for Black professionals in the energy sector? So it's the UK's first and largest network of Black professionals in the energy sector. We've got members of over 1,000 already, and we're made up of students, early careers, and mid-career level professionals as well. We also partner with companies, currently working with over 15 companies, and we've hosted nationwide events across schools, Black History Month industry panels as well. And just a little on what we actually do and what you stand to gain from being a part of us. We focus on three major parts, right? Get hired, Swift, and Collab Quest. Get hired is about the jobs. How can we help you, prepare you, launch you into the market space, connect you with opportunities, and guide you on how to get to those opportunities? Skills, Swift, which is the skills section, is more on capacity development. How do we help to bridge the skill gap between where you are and where you really want to be? And the third part is Collab Quest, which is more on connection. How can we connect you to mentors, to people in the industry, to the community, where you see where you want to be and how you can get there? So the Leadership Q&A series, which is this series, is one part of that. And the goal is for us to bring leaders across the UK energy sector right to you, and for you to ask questions that are pertinent on your mind about what their journey has been, what it's like within the sector as well. So, and we're not just saying this in kind of like a plan. We've come a long way in 2 years, right? We've worked on over 1,000 members, trained over 100 professionals. We've helped about 20 members secure new jobs in energy and climate. We've got two professional track mentorship programs that have been done, including reviewing people's CVs, growing up across our people, just community, the volunteer members, the partners we're working with as well, and even our social media presence. So we really hope for you to connect with us, join us, attend our events, and really hope to bring you into the Energize Black network and really help to launch your career in energy in the UK. So Dr. Ibilola is on the call. She's our guest for today. And thank you so much for joining, Dr. Ibilola. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me and I hope you can see me because I'm on my phone at the moment. And I hope the lighting is okay. Do you need more light or is the lighting okay?
No, I think it's good for me. I can see you clearly. I can hear you very clearly as well. So that's not a problem at all.
Thanks.
Yeah. So
apologies, I'm on my phone.
Not a problem. I don't think that's a problem. I mean, we can see you, so that really covers it, right? We can see you, we can hear you. It's all covered. Yeah, so I'm just gonna get into it, and we're gonna start off with, I'm gonna say a little about you from our own end, but the goal really is then for everyone to learn about you from you. In the context of the energy industry and your career so far. So just sharing a little on Dr. Ibilola's bio. Dr. Ibilola Amao, for anyone on the call that does not know her yet, I follow her on LinkedIn, so you should probably do that as well. She is the principal consultant at Lonadek Incorporated, and she's got over 3 decades of experience delivering innovative engineering technology and information management solutions. She is a co-founder and board member of Women in Energy Network. She's a passionate advocate for gender diversity, capacity building, and the empowerment of women in STEM across global markets, including Africa, Europe, and the USA. She's got, sorry, she's got extensive leadership in the sector, and she has been recently recognized by appointment to the Board of Trustees of the Nigerian Institute of Petroleum and Gas Engineers. She's an expert in ESG compliance and digital transformation, and she continues to drive sustainable asset performance and inclusive leadership within the energy and engineering industry. That is just a brief about the guests we've got today. But Dr. Ibilola would like to really meet you and understand more. Maybe we just start with the intro of how has your journey been into where you are today? From just you into being Dr. Ibilola Amao, the principal consultant at Lonadek Incorporated, along with everything you do. So your journey into engineering, into the energy industry, into building your own venture in the engineering sector as well. We would really love to start off with that.
Okay, thank you so much to Energies Black for inviting me and for having me here. I know it's the last day of the International Women's Month, and I'm so glad we managed to squeeze it in. I'm really glad to be with you. Thank you so much to Edwin and Bobby. Thanks for having me. I started off as a science student, a young lady who loves maths, loves solving problems. I was very fortunate. My late father was a civil and structural engineer, so I watched him as a child function as one with a passion. So I kind of looked at it, solving problems as an engineer as a possible idea of a career. I didn't want to be a doctor or a nurse because I couldn't stand blood. I hated hospitals. So I mean, I've been on several sites and journeys with my late father, so I kind of had an idea of what engineers do, solving problems. And since I love solving problems, I kind of wanted to be an engineer of some sort. But my first long trip in an aeroplane happened when I was 15, traveling to the United Kingdom for my A-levels. And at this point in time, I was so excited and impressed with the aerodynamics of a plane in the air for 6 hours that I decided that I would like to be an aeronautical engineer. Then I went to boarding school in England from Nigeria. And I mean, I had to contend with the change in weather. That was the first time I realized anything about racism. I was in a Quaker boarding school. And in a Quaker boarding school, I realized I was a minority. Having been raised in Nigeria, where practically most people were Black, I had no idea that there were any skin color issues. And then I had to change from traditional maths to modern maths. That was another challenge. I'd never seen a computer before I came to England for my A-levels. So I was learning so many things, adapting to the weather, adapting to the culture, adapting to the race interactions, adapting to modern maths, and adapting to being a minority in terms of there were 2 girls and maybe about 12 or 14 boys in the science class, whereas I'd come from an all-girls secondary boarding school in Nigeria. So that was a real huge transitioning for me. And I had to remain focused. And because I knew it cost my parents a lot of money to send me abroad to school, I couldn't afford to fail them and fail myself. So I put in all the extra effort that was required to remain focused, to do the extra hours, to understand the different methods of teaching, and adapted very well. At the end of the day, I was able to pass my maths, and I got a place to study engineering at Queen Mary University of London and Imperial College of Science and Technology, aeronautical engineering. I decided to go for aeronautical engineering. Then my late father advised me that in my lifetime, we were not going to be designing and building aeroplanes in Nigeria, that I had to pick another type of engineering. And we went on holiday to Seattle. I mean, the Boeing headquarters is in Seattle, Washington State. And on my way back to Nigeria, I decided that I will opt out for civil and structural engineering because I'd watched my late father work as one with a passion. Imperial College didn't have a space for me, so I went to Queen Mary University and I got in there for civil and structural engineering. And in 3 years, I managed to come out of that with a first class in civil and structural engineering. And then I went for my PhD in University of Bradford, trained to become a chartered engineer for 3 years, and returned to Nigeria again for my youth service. And then I set up Lonadek by happenstance. Well, being a female in a male-dominated sector has several issues. So one thing for sure is you have to learn to have a thick skin. You need to be in a continuous learning and development mode. And you must always strive for excellence. At the end of the day, you want to have earned your place wherever you find yourself in a meritocratic manner. So I have always had to work twice as hard as my male counterparts or twice as hard as my contemporaries so that I'm not struggling to be chosen in any, I'm not struggling to be the right choice. So I've acquired all the various types of qualifications that are required. I've attended all the kind of courses I think are necessary to achieve my goals and objectives. So it will be very difficult to be discriminated against once you set out to excel in so many fronts. And that has been my journey. Learning and development has been a daily journey and always been available to volunteer and support and assist where possible and basically build the right network and the right communities around everything I do. So that's my journey in a nutshell. I'm sure there'll be other parts of my journey I could talk about as we go along. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Ibilola. I think you're bringing us like to where we want to be. But it's really interesting. So you did your PhD and then you went back to Nigeria. I think that's like even one whole question on its own. There's also the part of you building Lonadek on your own. I think it would actually be interesting to probably hear about that, but also in the context of at each point, what has shaped your choices? What made you even start up Lonadek? What brought up the idea? How did you go from wanting to solve problems to then just like being an entrepreneur, building a venture? And so what are those defining moments or choices that has led you in your career from studying up until now? And I think stemming from that would probably be, so what do you think people should be taking out of that in this 21st century?
Okay, so after my PhD, I got a job offer with Pearl Frischman in Peterborough. My PhD was in University of Bradford. And then they were going to engage me on the basis of my PhD. And then I got a job offer from Baptist and Morton Consulting Engineers. They were going to engage me on the basis of my first degree, and they offered a graduate training program. My late father advised me to opt for a third of the salary that I was being offered as a PhD and go and train to become a chartered engineer. Training to become a chartered engineer afforded me 18 months in the design office and 18 months on site, structured training, going through various departments and various projects as a graduate trainee, even with a PhD. I learned a lot of humility, a lot of learning, a lot of daily diary keeping, weekly report writing, monthly report writing, and quarterly meetings with my supervising engineer, my supervisor, attending evening lectures with the right associations, institutions, and societies from University of Leeds, University of Bradford, and University of Manchester. So to become a chartered engineer, there were silver days with the Institution of Civil Engineers. You needed to go for evening lectures because there were kind of relationships between companies and universities. There were the gap experts provided evening lectures in the universities. So to create your knowledge, to develop your knowledge, your skills, and your good practice, you needed to attend some of these evening lectures in the universities, as well as being sponsored by Baptist and Morton Consulting Engineers on training programs. So the graduate training program was one of the greatest and most positive decisions I ever made in my career. With a PhD, going through that 3-year graduate training program exposed me to different dimensions of what engineering was all about on site and in the design office. I knew what I liked, what I didn't like. I knew my strengths. I discovered my weaknesses. And at the end of this, I knew I wanted to work with computers. And after my graduate training, my late father encouraged me to return to Nigeria, gave me a deadline of 21st of August 1991. If I didn't return on that day, he was going to disown me. So I returned back to Nigeria for my youth service. And it was whilst I was registering for my youth service, I got in contact with people who were registering companies. The company registration office was right next to the NYSC registration office. And that's how Lonadek was registered. I didn't set out to register a company. I traveled to register to become a youth corper, but I ended up becoming registering a company, and that's how Lonadek was born. So it wasn't as if I planned. Lonadek happened by happenstance. And that's basically how Lonadek came about. But the good news is the graduate training program had prepared me for exactly what I wanted to do. And I knew I wanted to work with computers, and I enjoyed working more in the design office than on site. So I think I would want every young graduate or any engineer or technical person to see how best they could go through this graduate training as early as possible, or even sign up for a management training program or an accelerator program. When you go for these programs, you're in a peer group with people in the same category as yourself, and you're being exposed to knowledge, skills, and good practice. So going for a graduate training program after my PhD was one of the best decisions I made. It looked like a setback, but at the end of the day, it built the right foundation for my career and my business.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Dr. Ibilola. So I think that has at least that has given us a background of how you've gotten here so far and what people should really be looking at, getting a basically learning everything. Look for an opportunity that allows you to learn so much across the business sector. And moving from how you started to where you are right now, you are an entrepreneur, you are a top executive, and you've got a lot of awards and recognitions already. I mean, things like the Clean Energy Education and Empowerment Initiative, I think in 2020, Forbes Rising Star in 2019, International Women's Entrepreneurial Challenge 2016, even like up to date. And it's more on for you, what are these milestone and recognition? What does it mean for you personally? How have you viewed it? What has it meant to you?
Okay, so when I started my business almost 35 years ago, there are not many females in engineering. Even as a career, talk less of females in engineering owning businesses, especially in the oil and gas industry. So, I mean, I was misjudged by several people. I mean, I got labeled for different things, and people just couldn't understand who I was and what I was doing. Fortunately, I got an opportunity to work as an in-house consultant in one of the leading engineering design companies. And this is where my training as a graduate trainee and my PhD came together. So I started training young engineers to deploy computer systems. So I was training young engineers to deploy computer systems in major capital projects in the oil and gas industry. And that was where my first degree, my PhD, and my training to become a chartered engineer got combined and integrated into the business. That kept me, I was there for like 10 years and 10 months. I got married at that point in time, had my 3 lovely young adult children then. And I learned a lot. So I think continuous learning and development and exposing yourself to greenfield projects was one of the strengths and one of the benefits of being in such an organization. And then the company was able to build its track record within the context of being a subcontractor and an in-house consultant. And then in 2003, Lonadek launched out as an independent consulting company after 10 years and 10 months as an in-house consulting company. And that kind of helped me because I had the track record, I had the network, and I had the experience and expertise then. I was fortunate to join some women-owned business initiatives, WINBiz, We Connect, Vital Voices. So that helped a lot. So the associations, institutions, societies, and networks you belong to really helps with the community support you get. And I think one should not underestimate the importance of being an active member in any of these groups. So whether it was the Institute of Directors, Energy Institute, Nigerian Society of Engineers, I kind of joined quite a few of these groups, and that really helped. So I was opportune to identify fantastic mentors who supported me, sponsors, and even allies. So, I mean, most of the doors opened for me into boards and into opportunities were opened by men. But there was one female engineer, Dr. Mrs. Olatokunbo Shomolu, who stands out as the lady who opened the first major door for me in the oil and gas industry. So I think we all need mentors, coaches, we need sponsors as we navigate our growth. That accelerates your trajectory. Then I would normally attend 1 or 2 courses as a minimum, physical courses as a minimum a year, overseas courses. Every quarter, I sign up for one learning and development program or initiative of sorts. And sometimes I get nominated for awards. Sometimes I get sent forms to fill, and I'm asked to apply for this and apply for that. But in terms of awards, I would say the beauty of putting yourself forward for an award or somebody putting you forward for an award is that you get to reevaluate your journey and your trajectory, your leadership journey, your entrepreneurship journey and trajectory. This is so important because if you want to lead or you want to succeed in anything, you need to have a vision and a goal and a mission and a purpose. And you also need to be prepared to subject yourself to being questioned about why you're doing what you're doing and how you're doing what you're doing. And it's always very interesting when somebody says, I put your name down for this, and then you just wait. And then when you get the award, you're quite pleased that you got shortlisted. So that has been my story. A lot of people have nominated me for different things. And for me, it's not a win or lose or a do or die affair. I'm fully comfortable in my purpose. I have my vision and my mission, and I know exactly where I'm going. So all these other things are things I am doing in my journey. And I always tell professionals, look at your career as an adventure, or even your business or your enterprise as an adventure. And once you have an open mind towards learning and development, you would just learn as you go on, and every day comes with its own surprises.
That's beautiful, Dr. Ibilola. Valerie here. I'll be taking us through the next stages of your journey, and taking us forward from here. And I really want to focus in on leadership, and thinking about growth, how you've grown in your career personally, and also thinking about how the sector looks today compared to how it did when you first started. How would you define success today compared to earlier in your career?
Well, when I first started, there were not many females in my space, not many females in the oil and gas industry in leadership or as business owners. I mean, there's still a dearth of female business owners in the oil and gas industry. But that's why we set up the Women in Energy Network in 2020. Three of us ladies, myself, Fumi Ogboe, and Patricia Simon Hart came together to set up the Women in Energy Network, which is basically to create a platform for women to grow and discover their leadership potential and be exposed to opportunities in the energy sector, and to provide support and to ensure that the younger ladies don't have to go through the stressful journeys we went through. I've been very lucky. I kind of have like a tomboy mentality, and I've grown a thick skin over the years. And quite a lot of my male colleagues, respect me for what I stand for. They know I'm serious-minded, I'm very focused and goal-oriented. So I'm one of those people that believe in the blue ocean strategy. And I also believe in collaboration, cooperation, and coordination of resources. So one thing about us as we've grown over the years is we've grown through partnerships, strategic alliances, joint venture, and consortia efforts. So these days, I hardly do anything on my own, or Lonadek hardly does anything on its own. We sign MOAs with our partners, and we collaborate with third parties to achieve our goals. So leadership for me is about teamwork and collaboration. And this is where I believe soft skills are so important. And being active in all these groups you're members of is an opportunity for you to meet the right people and collaborate with other people to achieve fantastic goals.
Yeah, beautiful. When I was doing some research and some background checks on you, I read you mentioned the Blue Ocean strategy in one of the articles and interviews you had. How you've used that in decision making with Lonadek. How can you walk us through the strategy just in case there's anybody on this call who doesn't know what the strategy is? And also maybe how can some of the listeners in the call today implement that strategy in their careers or in their entrepreneurial journey?
Okay, thank you so much. So the Blue Ocean strategy is basically understanding your comparative advantage and your competitive advantage, and also identifying problems, issues, challenges, and pain points that are when you scan your environment, and seeking to add value or create value, as opposed to struggling to latch onto what a whole bunch of piranhas in the waters are trying to get their teeth into. So I kind of I create most of the projects and most of the opportunities that we work on, we create from identifying a problem, issue, challenge, or a pain point of a customer or a client, and defining how best to solve it. So in some cases, we would partner with even our competitors, or we would work with people who we've competed with and create a bigger pie. And we share the bigger pie with our collaborators. So what I would say is one has to be very visionary, one has to be innovative, one has to have an open mind to be able to scan the environment continuously, and through qualitative and quantitative data from research and development, identify problems, issues, challenges, and pain points way ahead of the curve, and prefer solutions, initiatives, enterprises, and projects that address those things, whereby you're creating value or adding value to what exists. And then once you have a collaborative DNA as an individual or as a corporate, you're able to partner, form strategic alliances, joint ventures, and consortia efforts to solve these huge opportunities that have been created on the basis of the findings that has come to the fore. And I always tell people, like, my business today basically is an outcome of my PhD thesis. So whatever you do, always have at the back of your mind, I'm doing this not just for myself, but how can I use this to solve bigger problems for my community and other people in the ecosystem where I exist.
Yeah, and I think as well that's really important in the energy sector where innovation is key, collaboration is key, and so using that strategy is is very good and insightful, actually. Thank you for that. Just going back into our conversation around leadership, in our network in Energize Black, we have a lot of young professionals and mid-level professionals as well who, the end goal does look like leadership. They want to get into leadership roles. How should they be thinking, and what are some of the practical steps they can be taking to get into leadership positions, to lead teams, lead companies, lead products, etc.?
Okay, so I would say one has to take their personal development, their professional development, and their career development very seriously. So you need to map out your end game, and you need to look at what do I need to get to where I want to be. Fortunately, these days, LinkedIn can give you a lot of ideas. So just looking at the profiles of people on LinkedIn can actually give you an idea of how they got to where they are. So once you look at your personal, professional and career development, you need to begin to engage by joining the right groups, associations, institutions, societies, and networks. You need to begin to engage. You need mentors, you need role models, you need colleagues, you need peers, you need sponsors, you need allies. So your network is really your net worth. In the Energy Institute, for example, I mean, there are activities like meetings. I mean, I'm sure Energies Black has meetings. So attend as many of these meetings as possible. Follow on, follow through, and follow up is so important. So I know we go to conferences and exhibitions and workshops and seminars, and then we kind of go to sleep afterwards. I always tell young professionals, when you attend any of these trainings, conferences, workshops, meetings, follow up with the contacts you've made there, build relationships, get to meet people and get to understand people and appreciate people for what they are and what they're doing. I mean, some of the people I worked with about 30 years ago, are the kind of people I do major businesses with today. 30 years ago, we had no idea what 30 years down the road would look like. So your character and your attitude with whatever you're doing, wherever you're doing what you're doing is so important, because that defines if people will consider you as a serious potential collaborator in the future. And teamwork is everything, really. Together, each achieves more. And like I said, most of these major capital projects require a lot of capacity. So we need to build our capacity, capability, and competence, and have a very open mind towards continuous learning and development.
Yeah, I think what you said there about not only networking but following up is very key, and advice I will definitely be taking on. I love that networking aspect, but it's just that follow up and keeping in contact just for future opportunities. So thank you for that.
Even going for coffee, going for lunch. I mean, there's some soft skills that one has to acquire as well. Maybe dinners, award ceremonies, the different things. So you also need some form of visibility. So getting involved, volunteering sometimes, getting involved in corporate social responsibility, social impact initiatives, creating value and adding value really is one of those very important attributes that somebody who wants to lead or achieve the pinnacle of their career should get involved in.
Yeah, that's great. And I hope everyone's taking notes. I certainly am. Dr. Ibilola, I want to take the conversation into the direction of diversity and inclusion, because that's what we Energize Black was set up for and specialize in, and that's a topic you're passionate about clearly, and leans into the work that you're doing with the Women in Energy Network. So I just want to really explore your perspective on inclusion in the energy sector. And with the Women in Energy Network, I know you've co-founded this in 2020 with two of your other colleagues that you mentioned. I know the vision is, you see a future where women are equally represented and as influential as their male counterparts in the energy sector. And thank you so much, firstly, for the work you're doing. It's great to see. what inspired you to co-found the Energy Network? I know you've touched on this, but I really want to focus on, some of those initial conversations, early conversations that you were having with your colleagues, with other women in the energy sector. What inspired and Women in Energy Network?
So it's very easy to complain about discrimination. It's very easy to complain about biases, unconscious biases, and real biases. But I think from experience now, I would say the first thing you need to do is look inwards, grow a thick skin, refuse to accept you have anything less than what is required in terms of international standards, having built your capacity, capability, and competence, and then see how you can address any of the problems you see. So the three of us came together because we had overcome quite a lot of hurdles and quite a lot of stumbling blocks as females in the oil and gas industry. I'm an engineer. The other two are not engineers. So one is a scientist and another is an HR professional. So we decided that irrespective of your discipline, whether it's engineering or technical or non-technical, there are biases, unconscious biases and biases. What can we do to solve this problem? So we decided to set up the network, exactly what Energy is Black is doing. But I honestly think that there's a lot of work that we have to do looking inwards to ensure that we can't be faulted when it comes to merit. So meritocracy is very important. So we're not looking for tokenism of let's put her there because she's a woman, or let's put her there because she's from this race or not from that race. I think we need to do our homework and we need to upskill ourselves and make sure that there's fair competition, that we are able to perform and deliver value. And then we need to look at what are the unconscious and conscious biases we want to address and what structures can we put in place. So apart from we set up the Board of Trustees, and we have 2 male top executives, like the most renowned top male executives were invited to join the board because it was important to have the other gender in the Board of Trustees. We also have 2 male members in the Board of Directors as well. Because when you're looking at inclusivity and diversity, you do not want to err on the side of excluding the other group. So I think to get a balanced strategy, balanced execution plan, one must also include the other group in one's problem-solving strategy when it comes to addressing minority issues, and that's what we've done. And over the years, we've built a lot of credibility. We have over 1,000 members, and we have about over 20 corporate members as well, which means people recognize that we're actually creating value. Now we see more female speakers at conferences. We see more females on panels. Before, you'd have a poster out for a conference and there'll be no single female face on it. Right now, we have a voice. So if any poster comes out in the oil and gas industry of any event that is coming on, we don't see enough female faces there. We challenge the organizers and we let them know that, they're competent and capable women that should be in that space, and we get it fixed. So at least we've made progress. Women are not being looked down on or spoken down at anymore. And the male folk know that there are female groups that are looking out for deviant attitude and are happy to correct and point it out as soon as they occur.
Yeah. You mentioned there upholding meritocracy, identifying, the unconscious and conscious biases, and also including men in, the rooms when speaking about these issues. I think my question is more about if we look at the organizations which we work in, different organizations in the UK context, African context, what can these organizations be doing, beyond performative inclusion initiatives to actually creating meaningful and long-lasting change within the organization? I mean, if we look at America, for example, DEI initiatives or the DEI topic as a whole has sort of been dropped, but that doesn't help the situation. So how can companies be doing things that will cause long-lasting change?
Well, fantastic question. I must say that when you look at the supply chain, we're very fortunate today that certain things are in place that we can leverage on. So there's supplier diversity. And supplier diversity is something that you can actually research. For every organization, you need to look at their supply chain, their supplier diversity, and their sustainability reporting, or their culture, or who are the ambassadors in their leadership team. So I think one has to really research the makeup of these organizations. What's the body language and what are the comments and statements that have been made by the board members, the CEO, what's the supply chain looking like? What's the culture of the organization? What are the percentages of X representation and Y representation? And on the basis of that, one needs to begin to engage. So I would say courtesy visits to these companies to introduce your group, to let them know what you stand for, and give them some qualitative and quantitative data and statistics of a well-researched presentation. In a well-researched presentation will get you far, and then explain to them how maybe once a year you would like to meet with their minorities or their genders, and if you could work with their HR or work with their sustainability or their leadership team on a white paper. So, I mean, in the process of trying to create value and help them navigate some areas where they are a bit apprehensive of navigating on their own, you could actually support them to make those decisions you want them to make in that journey. And with diversity, equity, and inclusion, I honestly think this is an area where people are recognized. So young folk would go, would prefer the best talent would prefer to work for companies that have a good culture and are open to DEI matrices. So there's certain KPIs that you can actually showcase to these organizations to make them partner with your group, to actually look at their culture, look at their company, look at their business, and see how they can improve the makeup of the human capital to be more successful. And then we have international days. So, I mean, we have the International Women's Day, for example, where, I mean, every female group is exploiting International Women's Day now. It's now International Women's Week, International Women's Month. And I was just joking recently that we need to have International Women's Year soon. So I think there's so many, if you research a particular problem and identify the levers and the areas where you could actually add value organizationally or in businesses, you can actually take that through a courtesy visit to those businesses to say, these are our findings, these are the things that interest us, these are the statements your CEO or your board members have made, or these are some things you've achieved in the past, and this is where we think we can partner with you. So I think people are more likely to want to partner to people with groups that are there to help solve their problems or help navigate them to areas where they're a bit apprehensive of going on their own, as opposed to you pointing fingers at them and challenging them that they're not doing this and they're not doing that. The question is, what solution do you have for us? So it's easy to criticize and to complain about things, but it's much, much better to do some homework and do some real deep dive about, wow, how can I improve this situation? And then present scenarios of methods, ways, and execution plans of solving those problems.
Yeah. Well, and thinking about some of those solutions you've mentioned, how does the Women in Energy Network fit into these solutions, and where do you see WIEN in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years?
Okay, so the good news is I'm now on the Board of Trustees of the Women in Energy Network. We, 2 years ago, we actually stepped down from the day-to-day running of the Women in Energy Network. So we have a new board of directors, younger ladies who have brilliant ideas and are doing so many things. So I see them partnering with different groups. I see them collaborating with different groups. The number of corporate members have increased. And at conferences and workshops and seminars, I see them on panels doing fantastic things. So I know they do have a strategy of expanding the impact that the Women in Energy Network is doing. But for me personally, whenever I'm opportuned to speak at conferences, deliver keynote addresses, or speak about my journey, I always try to encourage more men to be sponsors and allies and he for she's, because I think there's so much we can do as women and Women in Energy Network. Without the support of the he for she's, the allies and the sponsors, we're not really going to achieve as much as possible. So I think right now my focus is more on getting the unconscious biases to the fore amongst the male folk, and helping them work through their unconscious biases to see that they could actually be sponsors, he for she's, and allies.
And well, just out of curiosity, what inspired you? What was the reason you stepped down from day-to-day activities and stepped away from the board, from the women?
I believe in institutionalizing whatever you get involved in, and having continuity and sustainability in your mindset. So three of us are co-founders, three of us are part of a board of trustees of about 12 people. We're also on the advisory board. So we're basically not involved in the day-to-day activities of the Women in Energy Network. And that, for me, that's a sign of strength. I mean, when you build something, like I'm not in the day-to-day running of Lonadek anymore. I mean, when you build something and you want to build an institution, you need to have an exit strategy. You need to have a succession plan. You need to look at the bigger picture. And I think the measure of success is on the back of how sustainable what you've put in place is and how likely it will outlive you, as opposed to you being in the center of everything that you're involved in. So I think the Women in Energy Network is in a very strong position today, even without us being in the day-to-day activities. And we're super proud of the board of directors and the team who are running the day-to-day activities.
Yeah. And that's really beautiful as well, because I think that links into the question of what success looks like today as well for you, that aspects of building something that can, outlive you and, be sustainable without you being at the very forefront. So I think that's really beautiful.
I would say success for me is about impact. I mean, the lives I've touched, the changes I've made, the communities that are better for me having walked through the surface of the earth, and the mindsets I've been able to change. And most importantly is to prove that you can be honest, a person of integrity, hardworking, focused, and diligent person who just gets on with what God appointed assignments are. And at the end of the day, we get benefits at the end of the day from the seeds we have sown.
And is that because at the start you mentioned your personal vision and mission? Are those the aspects that make up your personal vision and mission?
Yes, adding value to lives is my passion and vision, obviously. And I'm very pleased that I've been able to add value to a lot of lives. And when I see successful people who have benefited from one thing or the other that I have done in the past, I'm super proud of them and their achievements.
Yes. I did have an extra cheeky question around diversity, inclusion, and equity. Lonadek is a Nigerian company, context of Africa, but also, your work straddles both the Nigerian and the UK context. If we're to compare the UK context with the African context, using Nigeria as a lens, which of the two, or where do you think more progress is being made in diversity and inclusion in the energy sector specifically? And what lessons can one learn from the other?
In terms of gender diversity, Nigeria is way ahead of the UK in the energy sector.
Yeah.
And then in terms of inclusion, Nigeria, as a Nigerian, it's a lot easier for me to navigate the system in Nigeria. But I was very lucky to have been on the Council of the Energy Institute for 6 years and on the panel of judges with the Royal Academy of Engineering Africa Prize for another 6 years. So I've been so blessed to have worked with very exceptional, influential energy professionals over those years that, I was able to navigate easily in the UK that it probably would have achieved if I had not been in those groups. And I wouldn't have been in those groups if I hadn't had a leadership position in Nigeria. So I was lucky to have been in those groups at that level because I was leading in Nigeria. So sometimes you really need to leave a particular environment to make progress in another environment to be able to come back at a leadership position. So, I mean, it happened by happenstance. It wasn't planned, but I must say my career and my business accelerated much more in Nigeria than it would have in the UK.
Yeah, interesting. What we'll do now is we'll just round up this this direct interview session. But before we do that and hand over to the audience to ask questions, are there any final thoughts that you'd like to share with our audience? Bear in mind, young, mid-level professionals, wanting to be like you or, get into leadership, passionate about energy. Are there any final thoughts? Is there anything that we haven't discussed that you'd like to highlight in this conversation?
Well, I think most important is your support system. There'll be times in life where you're under a lot of pressure and you have to make some tough choices and decisions. You need to have the right support system so it doesn't all fall apart.
Yes, true. And I guess like communities like
Absolutely.
Energize Black, Women in Energy Network.
Absolutely. Your support system is critical. Your family, your friends, your colleagues.
Yes.
You need to know where to go when you need help.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Dr. Ibilola. That's been beautiful. I'm going to now invite Evelyn to handle the Q&A session. Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Ibilola. Thank you so much. I've just been taking so much notes and I almost even forgot to turn on my camera. But yeah, thank you so much for all you said. I'm just going to be taking the questions now. So the first question here is, in your opinion, seeing as the industry has evolved over time from when you first started, what are some of the entrepreneurial opportunities available in your sector that you feel young entrepreneurs can take advantage of like you did?
Okay, so exciting. That's really nice. So I think we're now in the season of digital transformation, Industry 5.0, oil and gas 4.0. This is such a beautiful time for STEMpreneurs, techpreneurs, entrepreneurs, and extrapreneurs. And for young ladies who can front load their careers and get the experience and expertise way before they get married and start having children. They're so blessed post-COVID, they can work from home and work from anywhere if they're digital natives. So I would say front load your careers, take your personal, professional, and career development very seriously. Become very IT literate and empowered so you can deploy technology as an enabler to work from home and work from anywhere when you don't want to work out of your homes. So during your childbearing years, you can always work from home and work from anywhere if you have the right skills and competencies.
Okay, thank you very much. Since you talked about having the right skills, I have a question. This is my own question. So I was watching a video of yours that you did with, I think, Queen Mary, and you talked about AI, digital transformation, and even digital twins shaping the future of energy. And I wonder, what skills or mindsets do you think will become non-negotiable in the next 5 to 10 years?
So information technology is really revolutionizing all jobs and careers. Unfortunately, the organizational structures have not changed much. So I think HR have to step up on restructuring organizations because, I mean, one person can do like 3 roles or 3 jobs right now. Digital transformation is real, whether they're digital twins, I think systems integrators, AI, MR, XR, VR experts are required, people who have innovative and critical reasoning skills. So no matter what you studied for your first degree or for your master's or your PhD, adaptability and flexibility with learning, micro learning is so critical. So you can adopt technologies and deploy technologies at speed. That would make a difference.
Okay. So now I have a question. For somebody who is coming from a non-technical background, what kind of things would you say that, because most of the things you talked about are from like your own personal background as an engineer, and So I wonder, for somebody coming from a non-technical background, what would you say? Where would you say that they should start? How can they build a meaningful career in the energy sector?
I think solving problems, you get compensated, you duly compensated and significantly compensated wherever you create value and add value. So whatever you have studied, through observation and innovation, once you identify problems, challenges, issues, and pain points, and you prefer solutions, you get duly compensated. I think AI could help you with the top 10 careers in sectors, industries on the basis of your background, know-how. So you can always use AI in terms of career analytics. You could also use LinkedIn to look at potential career opportunities. And I think most times you need to research the top vacancies, what roles are being very difficult to fill, and try and tie those to your qualifications, your knowledge, and your expertise. So it doesn't have to be engineering, it could be anything. There are loads of vacancies in specific areas where people are just not enough. And those are the sweet spots you need to pursue.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for the answer. Another question here is, how do you see the intersection of technology and energy evolving, and how can individuals position themselves to take advantage of this digital transformation?
Okay, so micro-learning, there's so much, and reverse mentoring. So there are a lot of young people who may not have the knowledge and the experience and expertise you have, but have technological know-how. Collaborating with such people would expose you to areas where you have strengths and there's a demand for your skill sets and your talent. I think we need to be very flexible, at least once a quarter, whether it's edX, Coursera, Udemy, Khan Academy, YouTube learning. Make sure you learn something tangible. Try as much as possible to develop PowerPoint presentations about your thought processes and your ideas, and do a lot of journaling. When ideas come to you, don't just throw the ideas away. Journal the ideas and explore and exploit the ideas. Discuss with friends and colleagues about what you can do with those ideas and see how you can monetize those ideas. And I think that really is just what is the kind of adventure I love to do, is exploring how my ideas could be applied in places to deliver value.
Thank you so much. I think that really ties into your point of having the right set of network, because then you could share your ideas with the people you have. And so I think you've touched on some of this, but I just want to ask this directly. So do you think leadership is something that can be learned, or is it innate? And what key skills and qualities do you see in effective leaders such as yourself?
Oh, leadership is something you have to grow into. If you don't have a vision and a mission, it's very difficult to lead. And if you don't have a sense of duty and responsibility, it's very difficult to lead. But leadership is something you grow into. So if you're the kind of person that is observant and can see problems and fix problems, you're leading in that space. So you don't need to be, I don't think you have to be at the top to be a leader. You can lead from any location. There are children who are born leaders, and there's some people who acquire leadership skills as they grow. But it's the duty and responsibility to solving problems and creating value that makes you a leader. Because if you don't have any followers, you're not leading.
Okay. Just wondering if anyone has any questions that they want to ask, maybe on video or like audio. You could just put their hands up and I could pick somebody. Let me just see. Okay. All right. Oluwafemi Ajayi, go ahead.
All right. Good evening, Ma. Thank you for the wonderful thoughts you shared with us. You mentioned leadership, and with regards to the Women in Energy Network, and I was quite curious. I wanted to find out. You've also talked about succession plans and how you've exited, day-to-day operational management of firms. As someone who has worked with female leaders and bosses before, or particularly, I don't know, what do you think is most women's fear for, releasing power in terms of leadership? because I've had some experiences while I was in Nigeria. Now I'm in the United Kingdom, and for me, it was quite a different experience having a female boss. Yeah, so I think there was just this hold until, oh, I just need to always have the hold, and it didn't quite affect, it didn't quite turn out well. So I don't know if that's, possibly the way, but what has been your own emancipating,
Mhm.
what has been something that has freed you from that kind of, you know, attitude in terms of management and building capacity, especially for the things and you've believed and worked on?
Thank you so much. That's such a funny question. I must tell you. Well, I'm very comfortable in my own skin. I'm not competing with anybody. I compete with myself. I want to be a better version of myself on a daily basis. So I'm not bothered about office politics. I'm so busy and so focused. Once you have a vision and a mission, and you know what your goals and objectives are, and you set your KPIs, you're not going to be competing with people. I mean, so unfortunately, maybe insecurity and perhaps I mean, I went to England when I was like 15. So and I come from a family where when it's not hierarchical, leadership is not autocratic and hierarchical. So I mean, I'm from a very relaxed environment. I don't need to be your boss. I don't need to be imposing anything on you. I mean, we have a very flat organizational structure at Lonadek. So I think it's not a female thing. It's a personal thing. If you're an insecure person, your leadership skills will be totally different from if you're a secure person. A male boss could do the same thing if he was insecure. I know male bosses who don't even want to go on leave because they feel that if they go on leave before they come back, somebody would have taken their position. It's an insecurity thing. It's not a gender thing.
Okay. Thank you very much for that question. Sorry for that answer. I have another question here. Someone's asking, what's the most important advice anyone gave you that inspired or propelled your career?
Well, I'm so blessed to come from a family where my late father and my late mother always taught us to be ourselves. Be yourself. There is only one original you. Nobody could be myself better than me. So why should I want to be somebody else? Be yourself. Discover who you are, discover your purpose, and be yourself.
Okay. I'll add like I have another question from that to say, what did it take for you to I guess understand yourself in order to be yourself? Like, what did it take for you to understand your own lane and just be in your own lane and just understand
Oh,
yourself?
I think when I was growing up, my parents allowed us to explore and exploit. I mean, and we had conversations with our parents. It was never do this. We could ask our parents questions and we could have conversations at the dining table. I mean, we were raised to be curious and to have intelligent conversations. Sometimes we'd argue about different opinions, about everything was in love. So I think when we're raising our children, we need to give them that loving environment where they can ask questions and discover self and purpose. So self-discovery, understanding of one's purpose is the core of being a very stable human being, content and complete and whole. If you're not completing yourself and you don't feel a sense of wholeness, then you will be looking outward of yourself for validation and for people to help you define yourself. So I think we really, really need child in your ages 0 to 7 are probably the most important times in the life of a child when their level of security is defined. And if they miss that, then through a lot of love and support and having support systems and the right communities, they can rediscover those things. So I would always say that if there's something missing, then find the right communities and the right support system to give you that self-assurance and self-awareness that you need to be yourself.
Okay. Thank you very much. We have a question from Okwemi. Okwemi, you could go with your question.
Thank you so much. Honestly, it has been a wonderful session so far. Like taking loads of notes. For those points, I'm very sure they will really help right now and also in the future. So my question is, what advice will you give people, or let's say young professionals, or someone that is trying to transition, but they've been applying some of the advice that you gave, right? And they feel kind of stuck in their career due to some circumstances that they can't control. It might be different circumstances for people, especially immigrants in this part of the world, like some circumstances like government policy and so on, right? Even though they volunteer, they keep building skills, and they have what it takes. But it seems that maybe they are not doing enough. They are kind of stuck. What kind of advice do you give them so that they won't be overcome, or they won't be overwhelmed by the situation of life. They won't join the same rat race that the people ahead of them find. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much for that question. I think for me, I'm a faith-based person. I believe that all things work together for good to them that love God and are called according to his purpose. I think prayerfully, you need to identify your purpose. You're created and wired by God Almighty to achieve and fulfill purpose on earth. You need to discover that purpose. When you discover your purpose and you're placed in the center of God's express will for your life in Christ Jesus, your blessings, your resources, your destiny helpers will gravitate towards you. So you need to be in the right place at the right time. But you have to discover purpose to be in the right place at the right time. So you need to invest quality time with God. And in investing quality time with God, you navigate to the right place at the right time, and you will discover your purpose. And there's no way you would discover your purpose, the reason why God created you, that all the resources of this universe would not cooperate with you. So discovering your purpose is the fundamentals of achieving what you're trying to achieve. So you need to invest time with God to discover your purpose, and the same God who gives you that purpose would unleash the full resources of the universe to support you achieve your purpose.
Thank you very much. I have one more question here, and it says, so out of curiosity, have you ever been in a position where you had to choose money, that's a huge salary, over impact in line with your passion? And how did you navigate this decision?
Sorry, money has never been an issue for me, and I'm so much in my purpose that I don't even have the time to spend the money I make. And that's one of the, I struggle to go on holidays and have a good time because my job, my business, my activities, daily activities are like an adventure and a fun for me because I'm in my purpose. So I'm totally having a good time on a daily basis. I wake up in the morning and I'm excited about the day because I'm in my purpose. So I think discovering purpose is so important. And when you're in your purpose, you create value, you add value. You're duly compensated. Money is attracted to you because resources must locate you because you have limited time to provide services and your services are in huge demand. So let's all strive to discover our purpose. And in discovering purpose, resources are unleashed to support us.
Thank you so much. If anyone has any more questions that they want to ask, thank you so much for all you've said so far, Dr. Ibilola. We are so grateful. And I'm sure that everyone has gotten something, and more people who would even get to watch this after would get a lot from this. I'm just going to ask again if anyone has any more questions. If not, I'll be asking everyone to just put on their videos, please. And because we're going to want to take a screenshot, and also if you also just want to even put your video on and your audio on to just tell Dr. Ibilola, thank you, that'll be great. Just
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ibilola. I've been here in the background just listening to everything, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ibilola. I think it's good to see you again after the last time we met at the Royal Society of Engineers. So, yeah.
Good to see you all. And thanks for listening.
Yes, Ma.
We're happy. Please, if people can put on their videos, if we can have your videos. Dr. Bell, I think I can't see your video anymore. Is it
Oh,
just
wow. I'm
yeah.
here. I'm right here, actually. Oh,
Oh,
can you imagine? I guess it's frozen. Sorry. What do we do about that? Do you want me to log out and log back in?
can you try? It went off. Can you try putting it on again?
Okay, let me switch it off. I think my screen is frozen. I don't know why.
Oh,
Oh God, I'm so sorry about this. You just have to Photoshop a photograph of me. So sorry. So sorry. So sorry. My screen's frozen. I'm glad you can even hear me.
we had a good session.
Okay,
I'm sure that everyone here was happy to be on the call. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen to us.
all right then.
I'll just take the screenshot. Everyone say cheers.
And then Photoshop me into the screenshot, please.
All right, so let me just take that one more time. Sorry. All right, everybody say Eva, your video just went off. Everyone.
Yes.
All right, thank you all so much for joining. We really appreciate taking the time to join us on a conversation with Dr. Ibilola Amao. We'll be sharing the recording as well, and we hope you look forward to more sessions, more leadership sessions, community spotlight sessions, and just if you do not attend NIPetigE Black events on a regular, please do so. You learn so much. You get to learn so much. You're taking away so much from these sessions that are specially created for you. Thank you all for joining and enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a restful Easter coming up over the weekend. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Ibilola. Bye.
Thank you
Bye.
so much, Dr.
So much.
Ibilola.
Thank you. Have
I'm back.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
back. I'm back.
Everyone has a body way. Let me see.
Bye, Ma.
I'm just going to take a quick one.
Okay, just take a few of us.
Yeah.
At least a few of us.
Yeah.
So sorry. I'm so sorry about that. My phone's just freezing.
Right, what are you doing? What's the hand for?
Okay,
All right.
then.
Thank you so much.
All right, then. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Take care. Bye.